Alright, so we drove this thing the other day to work, and trying to get the tune-up kind of dialed in, and we were having some timing issues, which has been kind of a persistent thing with this car. It's got just a stock style HEI distributor in it, and an MSD programmable 6AL box. And I think when I put this engine back together for 666, I put the distributor in like one tooth off. So if you see like right up here, it's like to get it timed right, it is all the way up against the firewall. And I think just from vibration shaking around, spark plug wires being pulled too tight and stuff like that, it keeps coming out of time. It's also got a bronze distributor gear in it, and I've been wearing those out like crazy. So I've got a new melonized gear I'm gonna try out and put this thing and see if that'll help. So we got some daylight today, so I can actually fire up the car once I get that gear changed out and get the distributor put in right. So we're gonna try and get that done today while we got some daylight and the kids are awake. So looking at this cap, this thing's looking okay. I've had these before where this thing will actually melt out, like this whole little bubble in there will melt out, and it'll just be, you know, shooting fire in there. So as long as there's material there, I'm going to call it good. Rotor is kind of the same way. It's a little bit black and sooty in here, but it's still got all the metal and all the plastic there where it's supposed to be. So when you install these distributors, you got to phase this rotor correctly, and that's what I messed up when I installed this last time. I really didn't have time. I was throwing the engine together right before I left. I really didn't have time to go back in and fix it, but this rotor button is right here. Really should be probably over here somewhere. So.
Right here. Not here or here so much, but right here.
So I'm going to mark this where I want it to be installed when I put it back in later on. Okay. So that's where it was. Where I actually want it to be is for this part to be turned over. So I really need this to be this way. So I need this to be somewhere in that region. It's kind of just a guess. It'll get us close, hopefully. Alright, so now we're going to take this bolt out and get that distributor out. Wow, I probably need a longer bolt on this guy. This guy only had like one thread in there. That might be the actual problem, is that I just don't have enough thread engagement in there and this bolt's loosening up. That might be why it keeps coming out of time. And distributor's out. Yep, there's that bronze gear. This one doesn't look too bad, but it's definitely got somewhere on it. I'm going to get this thing out of here before it leaks oil everywhere. Alright, got this distributor in the vise on this non-important area. These are like bearing surfaces up here, so you don't want to put that part in the vise, just this part of the shaft here. This thing spins like that, but checking out this bronze gear, I got it cleaned up. It's definitely... So you can already see that these teeth are wearing a little bit. This thing's only got like 2,500 miles on it and maybe 20 passes. And there's already a groove in the tooth. So this is a bronze gear. It's basically sacrificial.
Sacrifices must be made.
These things come stock with some kind of like iron or steel gear, and if you run a solid roller cam, I don't understand why, but you can't run that on there or it will chew the teeth off the camshaft itself. So you have to switch to a softer gear like this bronze gear. Problem is these bronze gears wear really fast, and then it causes issues. If you strip all the teeth off of it, that will actually, you know, quit driving your distributor and your oil pump and everything like that. So that's pretty uncool. But these bronze gears wearing out all the time is also uncool. On a tip from JRD Motorsports on Instagram, he recommended this Cam's melonized gear. It's black like the stock gear that came on this thing, but I hear that these will work with a solid roller cam and they also don't wear out like these bronze ones do. So I'm going to try this out, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. As far as changing this gear out, there's a little roll pin right there. All you do is drive that pin out.
That's it. I'm getting me mallet.
This slides off, put the new one on, drive that pin right back through. It's pretty easy. So this one's actually a little bit looser. Let me see. This one did not come with a new roll pin, so I guess I'm going to reuse the old one. And that's all there is to it. We'll put a little bit of oil on this thing, lube it up, and then we'll drop it in. Another thing about these distributors, if you buy like a really nice high-end one, this collar here will have like a screw on it that you can loosen up and move this collar up and down. And that just kind of helps set the depth of your gear engagement and everything like that, because when you tighten it up, there's a little fork that holds this down. That's what holds it into the engine. Mine is a cheaper one, does not have that kind of action, and I'm suspecting it's probably a combination of the engine being decked a few times. Maybe it's the heads I've got, maybe it's the intake I've got. Not really sure what all it is, but if you just put this in there and try and bolt it down with just a gasket in here, it will bottom out before it gets all the way tight. So I've got these Moroso distributor shims. They're just little plastic shims that go on there and space that out so that you can actually tighten this thing down. Before I just had like 5 gaskets on here instead of using these shims, but I got these shims now so I can put them in there. I don't really like it because it covers up this pilot where it's actually supposed to pilot into the machine bore on the distributor, and I got to use so many shims it covers up the whole pilot, so that might be part of my issue too. But we're going to go ahead and not fix that and just pop this guy back in after we clean it up a little bit. Cool thing about cleaning this whole thing up before I reinstall it is that I sprayed off my timing mark there of where that rotor was supposed to go. But I kind of remember it more or less pointing at this number 2 cylinder on this side of the engine, so I kind of point it roughly that same direction, and yeah, and then when it doesn't work, I'll take it back out and reinstall it the right way. So the fun part about putting this back in is you have to line up the camshaft and the oil pump. So there's a little tab on the oil pump that you have to get this thing actually lined up to, and you can't really see it when you're doing it, so you gotta kind of wing it, see if it goes in, and see there, it went in, but not all the way. So what I'm going to have to do, take it back out, turn it a little bit, try and get it back in, wiggle it, there we go. So, yeah, it's probably pretty close to where I wanted it. Let's slap the cap on and kind of, I guess, put the wires on and see if we can get it timed about where we want it. Let's lock it down first, though, with the locker downer. Old bolt was too short and this one's too long. Gotta find something in the in-between size. I'm gonna try and just add a little washer here and see if that helps. I don't have any bolts that are in between the length of this one and the one that came out of there, so. I never remember the firing order on these, so I got to pull it up on my phone every time just to remind me. And number 8. Ta-da! All right. I guess at this point it should probably fire up. Let's get the timing light out and see if we can't get this guy lit off. Alright, let's see if she'll even start. see this. This has never happened.
Eyeballed it, it's within 2 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and set it at 40, and it should be good to roll. I don't know if you guys could hear me talking there when I was talking, but I normally set this thing about 38 to 40 degrees of timing, and eyeballed that distributor, stabbed it in, and put the cap on, put the wires on, all that stuff, fired it up. It's never have I installed a distributor, hit the button, and it fired right up like that. It's always like it goes. You can always tell by how the starter sounds whether or not you've got the timing close or not. Fired right up. Checked the timing, and it was sitting at 36 degrees. So yeah, I mean, I went ahead and tickled it up to about 40, and we're gonna start going from there. So this week it's gonna be nice again. I'll probably keep driving it to work, continue on the tune-up on the carburetor. I'm not like a engine tuner or anything, but something that I've noticed over the years is that if your timing isn't right, your fuel's not going to be right. Just you can get your air fuel ratio dialed in and everything like that. You put 2 more degrees of timing in it, and then it's all out of whack. It'll totally change your air fuel ratio, especially if you don't have enough timing in it and you add timing. So get the timing set right first, then start working on your air fuel ratio. I don't know if you saw me using this here WAF Racing screwdriver to set those idle screws, but I said I was going to talk about that in a previous video, and then I never went back and did. But this guy has a little spring ball inside there, and it's got dashes and numbers on here so that you can set your idle mixture screws on your carburetor. So what you do with this is this is the pro version of the screwdriver, so you can do it one-handed. They've got another two-handed version too. That's the original. But so right now this is at 8 and 0. I can tighten this screw in one tick, which is 1/8 of a turn, and now it's at 1. So I can really fine-tune how I'm going through and dialing in all these idle mixture screws. If you're starting off with a new tune-up, I believe the factory setting on all Holley style carburetors is to bottom out the screw and then back it off 1.5 turns, and that's a good starting point. This guy's got four corner idle screw adjustment, so it's got 2 screws in each metering block. A factory style carburetor will probably only have 2 screws total, but this just lets you dial it in a little bit finer. What I like to do is put my timing line out. This only works when your engine is all the way warmed up. So this engine's still cold. I didn't let it warm all the way up. Let your engine warm all the way up. Drive somewhere. Drive to the gas station or something like that. Park it. Put your timing light on. This timing light will tell you the exact RPM on there, down to 1 RPM. Set the timing light up. Look at what the RPM is. Let's say it says 900 on the timing light. I'll come in here to this first screw. I'll turn it up 1/8 of a turn. or turn it in an eighth of a turn. If the RPM goes up on the timing light, to me, that means that the engine liked it.
He likes it! Hey, Mikey!
So now I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to turn it, do the same thing. I'll turn it in an eighth of a turn. If the RPM goes up again, that means it liked it. Come over to this side. I'll do the same thing. Turn it up. If the RPM goes up, it likes it. Same thing. If I make a change and the RPM goes down, meaning it doesn't like it, then I go back the other way. So if I turn it in the first time and the RPM goes down, then I'll come back and I'll turn it, back to where it was, and then out one more eighth of a turn. And then I just keep going around, doing loops around the carburetor. After every change, blip the throttle once, just to, just to kind of reset it, as if you're just coming back to idle off of throttle. And you just keep going around, checking the RPM on the timing light until you get it to where it's at its most happiest. You can also do this with a vacuum gauge. That's how I used to do it. I'd plug a vacuum gauge into a vacuum port, and then I would just do the same loops and then just read the vacuum gauge. And as the vacuum went up higher and higher and higher, I would just try and maximize the idle vacuum. It works the same way. So that's kind of how I set my idle air-fuel ratio, and this WAF Racing carburetor with the little clicky doodad on it sure makes it easy to know exactly what, exactly how many turns you have in each screw. If you're smart, you'll get a notebook and start writing that kind of stuff down.
Write that down, write that down!
So if you ever change stuff, you have, notes to go back to. I'm going to start getting better about taking notes, but I haven't been yet. So, yeah, that's it. Now that we got the timing set to where it's not going to move, this WAF Racing kit is going to be riding shotgun with me for a while, and I'll probably do some more tune-ups with these jets and these new accelerator pump squirters that I got. I should probably put one of these squirters in right now, but I'm just going to leave it alone, see how it goes, one change at a time. Either make a jet change or a squirter change or something like that. I probably won't start messing with air bleeds until I get all the jets and the squirters where I'm happy with them. So, and the last thing we're going to do before I forget is come back in here with my wrench and really lock that distributor down so that it doesn't move at all. Maybe I'll do another video. I think I'm going to put more advance in the distributor through the programmable MSD box. Yeah, that box is pretty cool too, because it'll do other stuff. Like you can put in a vacuum advance if you add a map sensor to your car. I don't have a map sensor on this one, so I can't do that, but if I did add a map sensor, then I could do something like that. But yeah, so I'm going to go back and lock the distributor screw down so it doesn't move, and at least give me a good baseline where I know my timing is set and it's not going to change. That is that. That's going to do it for this edition of distributor gear replacement. So, yeah, hope you liked it. We'll see you next time where we're going to do something.